Talking Shop in the Shop. I'm your host, Frank Cucciardo, Executive Director at Order Plans, a division of PKAD Architecture and Design. And we are back here. This is one of my favorite episodes. We're back here in the woodworking shop at Corey Tyne Woodworking, where ideas become heirlooms.
That's correct.
Right? And so we appreciate you hosting us, Corey. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, we like to start off all these. Let's give you, let everyone know a little bit about what Corey does. And just for sake of background, was it 6 years ago, maybe? 7?
Yeah.
Something like that. My wife found an ad from you.
Ad for you for classes, and then she came and took a class. I think it was a cutting board class.
Yeah, she gave me a Christmas gift.
Yeah, Christmas gift, made a cutting board, and now it's one of the things I do as a business. So,
right.
So I offer classes in I'm surpassed 30 different classes that I teach right now.
So you have 30 different classes, so people of any skill set could come in.
Total beginners.
You don't have to know anything, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to know anything. You can come in.
And
you can do something like a project like this.
As simple as that, it's a one-night class. That's a wine bottle glass holder. So this sits on top of your wine bottle on your counter, and you put your glasses upside down, and one night you go home with this.
Come home and you'll leave with something, right?
You go home with something.
And then tonight, later, you're doing a joinery.
All week this week, I'm doing a joinery class. So this is a dovetail. So this is what you would use on drawers. So we're doing these all by hand. So these are the samples I made, and this is a cross lap joint and lap. So we did all these by hand with a handsaw and chisels and all the tools that are back there.
Right.
And then it gets
this is an advanced.
The more advanced, intense class. This is an 8-day class, about 8 to 10-hour days. And you go home with this, and you got to do the final sanding and the finishing on your own. But this will be the most comfortable chair you ever sit in your life.
Right.
You actually fall asleep in it. So.
That's right. And this is something where, and again, where ideas become heirlooms. You may rock your child in this. And that child will rock their child.
So it's.
Yep. That's kind of neat.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. So I think we were talking about taking a class and doing do something here. Yeah. So to our audience who's watching, if this is something that might interest you, then they could just reach out to your office and schedule something.
Reach out to me online, ct-woodwork.com.
Right, and then maybe down in the description we can have
something to a link to the classes. I have a calendar on there. All the descriptions, dates, prices, everything's on the website.
Great. So, Corey, thank you. We appreciate it. All right. So this week on Talking Shop in the Shop, very grateful to have two guests that really are experts in their respective fields. Sergio Moras.
Yes.
Sergio Moras.
Yes, good. Very good.
And Ben Chaleff. Now, Sergio, tell us, why don't we tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Well, my name is Sergio Morris. I'm a building inspector for a local municipality. I'm also a certified floodplain manager, and I found myself to be in a very unique situation in which, from the perspective of a building inspector, putting the pieces together to assist the homeowner when it comes to either reconstructing a house or building a home or making repairs, additions, alterations, the hurdles that sometimes the homeowner will experience in conjunction with the hurdles that are experienced by the design professionals, by the contractors, by the building inspectors. So in a sense, I decided to do something a little bit different, and I decided to open up my own expediting company, assisting with residents outside of my own jurisdiction when it comes to trying to put the pieces together to make the process a lot easier for everyone that's involved.
Right. So that's like a really, really unique set of skills. So you have 1 foot, or you have one chair in the as a plans examiner, as a building inspector. And then on the other side of things, you're helping to facilitate that process of putting plans through. So you have a really unique spot that is, thank you for coming in. So I think this is going to be a great session. Now Ben, tell the folks a little bit about yourself. What's your deal?
My name's Ben Chaleff. I'm an architect out on the East End of Long Island. I have in partnership with my father, Chaleff and Rogers Architects. He's been the firm. He's been private practice since '72. So 52nd year going on.
Yeah, so he's been in practice longer than I've been alive.
So we have a small firm, and we practice both, well, really most types, residential, commercial, institutional, but across all those genres, we try and do, as sustainable and green as we can, whatever the project might
Right,
be.
and your father's been published in various trade magazines and other areas, and he's way out ahead of his time.
He's always trying to be a couple steps ahead.
Yeah.
Always, even at his age now, he's always reading the trade magazines
Yeah.
and trying to stay ahead of the curve and stay out there with the current technology
Yep.
and always
Yep.
be, groundbreaking as much as possible.
Yeah, and we met, so we gave a CE in Sag Harbor last summer on LiDAR scanning, and right out of the event, your dad pulled me aside, and he's like, we're send him out tomorrow.
It was a nice coincidence.
Yeah, it was.
We had a project
Yeah.
going, and it made a lot of
But
sense.
but I appreciate your father and you for doing that. So you guys will always have a soft spot with me. So thank you.
Well,
But hats off to your pops for thinking forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yes, it's sometimes to his detriment. He's always thinking forward.
Well,
But
the how do they say the explorers are the ones with the arrows first? Yeah.
right.
Yep.
So I've been very lucky in that the firm and its reputation were well established when I finished school and came into the
Yeah,
practice.
but it's a testimony to you and your father that it's continued and it's in the family, and that's really neat. And two, if you watch this podcast, we're really always talking about small business ownership and family-run practice, and it's really a special thing for a father and a son to
Be able
to work together. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's great. So and you're also the vice president of AIA.
Peconic.
Peconic?
Yes, they've started a sequence. So you enter the structure as secretary, and then you become vice president, and then president, and then past president, etc. So, yes, this year I'm vice president of the Peconic chapter.
Right.
AIA.
Right, great. So this is a really nice time. So if you're a homeowner, you're a real estate investor, you're a realtor, you're a mortgage guy, everybody is touching a house a little bit different, right? And we say this again and again. It's like a handful of blindfolded people come in and start touching this animal, and one person, grabs a leg and they describe it a certain way, and someone grabs a tusk and they describe it a certain way, and the other person grabs a trunk and they describe it a certain way, and everyone's positive that their opinion is right until you take the blindfold off, and everyone's touching the elephant but different parts of it. So we come to this as professionals, all with a little bit of a different view of the house and the transaction. And so I thought today would be a great time to listen to an accomplished architect and firm on the East End talk with an accomplished building inspector, and what does that look like, and how do we get there, and what does the homeowner's expectations, and so then we'll just give a sort of a really quick and high level process of the client's in and they want to do something, and now you take them through the process until they get to him. What does that kind of look like, real quick? What would be typical?
Well, typical, we would work with the client, find out what their intent is, what their program is.
Right.
And
So program.
Program's number one for us, right? We can't really start, otherwise we're guessing the whole time and,
Right.
and showing them something and wondering if it's what they want.
Right.
That doesn't really work very well. So the most efficient way to do it is and we often send our clients, if they're not, doesn't really sound like it hasn't really solidified for them yet, right? And what they really want, we give them homework and make them come back to us with a written program, because the act of writing it, really helps to solidify those
Right.
ideas. And if it's a couple or a family or whatever it is, they often need to still work things out sometimes
Together.
together.
Right.
And rather than us, which inevitably sometimes happens where we become marriage counselors.
Right. Very
better
true. Very
For the
true.
process and for everyone's relationships, separately and together, if as much of that behind the scenes, intent can get worked out
Right.
ahead of time. And sometimes they need us to facilitate that
Right.
anyway.
Right.
But, so they come to us with a program.
The program first.
We develop a preliminary design responding to that.
Right.
And then there's some back and forth, some tweaking it, some
Right.
adjusting it. Maybe we didn't quite get something right the first time. Maybe they didn't understand what they were even asking for the
Right.
first
So
time.
some schematics.
Schematic design. And then once that's essentially approved by the client, then, we shift to design development where, and that's usually, sometimes it's more formal, sometimes it's wrapped into preliminary or
Yep.
construction documents. But, there's some more fleshing out of structure and mechanicals. And,
Right.
And
The engineers might start getting involved at this point, start
Right.
make it real.
Right.
Right.
And then, once that's still agreed to, and maybe that's a time that you start getting some cost feedback.
Yep.
Make sure you're still on track.
Kind of ranges, test bids. Right.
Exactly. And then, depending on the project, we typically switch to construction documents, which also facilitate as the permit set.
Permit set.
Sometimes, depending on the project, we'll do just a permit set for someone, and they're going to act as GC themselves, so they don't need us to do full services. But we still need CDs,
Right.
construction documents,
Something that's going to take your stamp.
something that's going to be approvable by the local municipality.
That's right. And can a we'll get to you. Can a draftsman do this work?
A draftsman.
Because this is one of my itches I can't
They really
scratch.
need to work under an architect.
They work under an architect.
There's a threshold, right?
Right.
At least, and I think that's a state requirement, about 1,500 square feet
Space.
amount of space. If then you need a licensed architect once you're over that.
Right.
Or I think there are other contingencies that kick in as well.
So a draftsman can't do all the work and then come to your office and say, "Would you stamp this?"
They can try, but
Right.
we don't like, personally,
Right.
we don't like to work that way.
Correct.
We like to be much more hands-on
Correct.
from the beginning.
Correct.
And make sure, we're a little atypical in some firms. Even though we're a small firm, we try and do most of our own engineering, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's structural or mechanical. Again, and we do our own sanitary designs as well, just so
Right.
that we have more control over
Right.
the whole process.
Right. And what does that stamp represent? When that stamp goes on a set of documents, it represents what?
It represents, to the best of my knowledge and belief, that what we're presenting meets all the requirements of
Right.
the state code.
Right. And you've taken responsibility
Correct.
for that. Those instructions, right?
That is right.
Then it comes that all that work, time, energy, and effort, and that set is what they'll get a bid for contract on, right? Design development, schematics, that's sort of a test bid,
Test bid.
right? Kind of a range.
tires,
We're kicking the
right.
tires. Are we in this right space? It gives the homeowner a chance to interview a prospective 3, 4, 5 builders, maybe, right?
Right.
Kind of. They don't expect to get a bid for contract there. It's the stamp set.
Well, yeah, if they don't understand the process, sometimes they do expect to get a bid there. But yeah,
Right. So maybe look right at the camera and tell them that.
Yeah, you can't get accurate pricing from a design development set, from a preliminary design set, and we've seen, especially since COVID, that pricing and rules of thumb and all of it have really gone out the window.
That's right.
And maybe things have started to come back and normalized a bit in some arenas and some material costs, but especially maybe where we generally practice in the Eastern Long Island, that numbers can be all over the place.
Right.
So
it's a test bid. It means let's get in. Are we swimming in the right pool? Mm-hmm. Because if it's not, if the numbers are all coming back 50% over the budget, then you have to go back to the drawing board, literally.
right.
Right.
And I neglected to mention that in not only a program that they should come to us with, but a budget, because that is really important.
Yeah.
And it often has this history where it's this reclusive thing or this private thing that they don't necessarily want to share with us. And I don't know how that started. Maybe it's embarrassed about a number or whatever it might be, or they're not sure how much they can spend,
Yeah.
or they think that telling us it's dangerous how much they can spend. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you're not upfront about a budget to begin with,
Right.
then we can go
way
off
the rails
in terms of
Right.
designing something that just
Right.
doesn't work for them.
and
And their expectations.
right.
Right.
And the reality of it is, right, when the owner hires the architect as a separate vendor, the way it's supposed to happen, you have a fiduciary responsibility to the owner
Right.
to keep privacy. There's a lot of ways that you have client privileges here, right? There's you're not broadcasting this to the world.
Right. Yeah. It would short circuit and really interrupt, especially if you're going to the bidded
Right.
process where,
Right.
where contractors are offering sealed bids, then knowing what the budget is
Yeah,
sort of throws that off.
Correct. So that's the value of hiring the architect as a standalone contract, separate.
Yeah, and typically our contracts work that way, but there has been something the last, I don't know, say 10 years or so where we try, when possible, and usually it's not residential projects, although it works for that, but the integrated design process where all the relevant parties are at the table from the beginning, where you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
contract,
Yeah.
almost all the relevant parties are from the beginning. Right? We're usually not getting the code official to the table, but if you can get contractor and maybe it's a developer, I'm not sure, but if you have a surveyor that's a little more or environmental analyst or something, if it's a complicated site, right from the beginning, so that you can keep everybody working towards this common goal.
Right. Without burning through time.
Right, and if
Right.
there's an engineer that's needed, same
Right.
thing, if they can get to the table to begin with,
Yep.
then you're not taking,
Right.
and that's why we like generally to do our own engineering, is that you're not designing something and then giving it away
Right.
to have it modified to in a way that doesn't work for you anymore. It changes it significantly, and the intent is lost or
Right.
something.
Right.
So
Right.
if you can at least get all the parties to the table from the beginning, that we find that that's a really great way to work.
Right.
It doesn't always work for projects.
But for some, it absolutely can, especially if there's relationship.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
There's trust.
I will say that in the municipality where I work, if there's a major project that's upcoming, our leadership actually brings the developer in to one meeting, as you're describing. We bring in the electric department, we bring in the
Yeah.
water department, we bring in the Department of Public Works, the building department.
So
is
they're picking
involved.
this all through.
So everyone's sitting at the table.
Right.
Everyone has their input. All the questions that are
Right.
needed right from the beginning are answered right from the beginning.
Right. So, I'm sorry.
Most efficient way to do it, right?
Yeah.
It, it saves so much
Correct.
time.
Right. But maybe that might be for maybe not every project, but if we talk to the bell curve project, pricing is private. And that's typically, right? And the homeowner needs to appreciate that when you put your stamp on it, they're hiring you and you're their owner's rep in essence for that component of getting what's between their ears from the program to going through discovery, where you're collecting data on the survey and the existing conditions of the building and formulating a model, and then coming in and adding on and taking that program and pulling it from between their headspace, putting it to paper, and then adding content and details to the point where you say, yes, here's my stamp, this can be built, and then it goes over to you.
Correct.
So, but in order to get it to you, this is where you get to wear two hats. In order to get from here to the
Building
department, many times an expediter is needed.
So I guess I'll start from the building department perspective first. Everything that you just mentioned is exactly 100% true. You have a homeowner who is interested in either buying a house, developing a house, whatever scenario they may
Yep.
be. They have to go through this process of getting themselves an architect, a design professional, work out the kinks, as you're mentioning, get everybody to agree. And I know homeowners tend to have an expectation as to, I want to do this and I want to have it done in 3 months. And basically, your step alone can take months just to accomplish that.
Tell
level.
that to the folks again. Let them have a realistic view of timing.
So timing and expectations are realistic. It's nice to want what you want. I mean, it is your home, it's your property. but there are a lot of factors that are involved as to how quickly you can get done what you really truly want to get done. The building department perspective, after you've gone through everything that you just went through, to finally get that final set of construction drawings signed, that everyone is in agreement, now that ends up in the building department where, depending on the workload, depending on staffing, we may get in hundreds of applications where you were dealing with one, and we now have to review those plans, sometimes depending on how busy we truly are. Plan reviews can take, on an easy note, 1 month to review. Just so we can even get to the point where we can actually start the initial review. There's other municipalities that I'm aware of on the expediting end that they're behind 6 months just to get to that initial review.
Correct.
And that takes quite a while. Now, once those plans are reviewed, the role of a plans examiner is to make sure that the plans that were submitted do comply with the code. And very good design professional, architect or an engineer that knows the code, if they submitted those plans correctly right from the beginning. And sometimes it's not even if they intentionally made a mistake on the plans, but sometimes codes change. And sometimes people are not made aware, the design professionals are not made aware that some codes have been changed.
Right. So a lot of times, right, Ben, we'll find out after the fact.
Or we get that call,
Yeah.
call of that letter from the building department.
Right. Or
reminding you,
right.
or letting you know the first time.
Or we see a trend. We keep getting the same objection letters or requests for information from, and it's either the code has changed or maybe there's been a class that municipality's
something
taken.
might have transpired that
Right.
may have caused for
Right.
a small error or omission to be listed on the plans.
Right.
In addition, every municipality has their own codes. Those codes also need to be taken into consideration. Some municipalities have codes that are more restrictive than the state.
Right.
So there's a lot of research that needs to be done from that initial point of having the design professional
Right.
prepare those set of plans.
Right.
Now, once those plans are reviewed, if those plans are in order, then of course part of the process of issuing a permit is that we need to verify that the contractors that have submitted the application, that they're properly licensed by the county that they're in, that they have the proper insurances, workers' compensation,
Right.
disability liability, that they include that the municipality has been named as an additional insured or certificate holder.
Right.
We have to verify that all the other trades that are associated to the project, whether it be electrical, plumbing, mechanical, that they also have submitted their applications, and all of that takes time.
Right.
So
you're protecting the constituency.
We're protecting the homeowner.
Sure.
We're making sure that the codes are enforced properly.
Correct.
And it is our job to make sure that someone's house is being constructed, that they're going to be living in a safe home.
Right.
That there are no issues with the house that they are living in.
Right.
We don't want them to be living in a house where you needed to have a 12-inch beam across, and for whatever reason, someone installed an 8-inch beam.
Right.
Now you're dealing with floor loads, and
see it all the
you
time.
can have collapses
Sure.
and things of that nature. That is the role of the building department, is to ensure the life
Sure.
safety issues.
Because some families, right? Some families may opt to say, "Well, I don't want to involve the town, and I don't want a permit, and we'll just let Charlie come in and take this wall down between the living room and the kitchen, let's say, and he'll just put it up."
Correct.
Just is a 4-letter word, which we have said here at Talking Shop in the Shop. Just is a 4-letter word. Nothing just happens. Yeah. So
Now on the side of an expediter.
right, but I'm sorry, but the point of the permit is to insert the town as the check and balance to ensure that the health, safety of
The health, safety, and well-being of the resident
is being taken care of.
Absolutely.
And are you looking at the family that's living there now or the life history of the building?
Well, it depends. I'll give you a perfect example. We recently had an application filed for a small interior renovation, and of course it indicated that they were just replacing some sheetrock and some insulation, but of course during the inspection you're noticing that the headers have been rotted away.
Right.
Now,
Right.
if someone would have just said, I'm just going to insulate, not call for an inspection,
Right.
an inspector's supposed to go to the property and say, well, I didn't see your insulation. You're going to have to open up that wall so I can see the insulation. At that time, the inspector will be able to know, wait a second here, your headers are rotted away.
Sure, termites, whatnot.
Correct.
Sure.
Whatever transpires. So, of course, those items that need to be repaired, that causes delays in the project, of course.
And it's frustrating. There's no getting around this, but It's better than the second floor ending in the basement. Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
So on the expediting end, I kind of get it right from the beginning before they even end up with you. Hey, I'm buying this plot of land. I'm going to demolish this structure. I want to build a new house. Can I get this done in 6 months? The realistic answer is maybe the plans could get done in 6 months.
Right.
But the realistic end is that some municipalities will take 6 months just to review the plans.
Sure.
So making sure that the homeowner is aware that there's a timing is involved.
The project that they came through our door 2 weeks ago that we were talking about.
Correct.
She had a distressed property. She needed to be into construction. She had 6 months to get into construction.
Yes.
And I explained to her what the time frames look like, and she was angry.
Correct.
I can't, I don't know what to say, but these are the time frames. And what do you mean that we need 2 or 3 months for design development? And what do you mean the town needs 3
Correct.
months? Are you telling me that I can't even have a permit before 6 months? But you're saying that these are
There
none of these
are
are
issues. I mean,
right.
this is really what transpires.
Nothing just happens.
Correct. Now, from the time that I end up with a new client that wants to build that house, I think one of the reasons that that I can generate some trust and confidence is because I'm very realistic with everyone. I'm very honest with
Sure.
everyone. I will give them approximate time frames, and those time frames tend to be pretty correct. But as long as they understand that those time frames that they're expecting I want this done in 6 months, it's not going to be 6 months, it's
Right.
going to be a year.
Right.
That helps them quite a lot. But also what helps speed up the process is that I am a building inspector. I know my codes.
Right.
So once I see, let's say, for example, it's a maintain of something that someone has already done. You installed a bathroom in the basement. Your code official may not approve that bathroom. You may need to remove that bathroom. You don't have the proper ceiling height. You need
Right.
6 feet 8 inches.
Right.
You're at 6'5".
Right.
Your beams, your girders are at 6'2". You need
Right.
6'4" at a minimum.
Which now goes back to pull a permit to begin with and do it right the first time.
Correct, which saves you time and money.
Correct. But
Yes.
it's long-term thinking that is usually, I don't say usually, but many times is a kick to the curb for expedience and
Correct.
yeah. But these are real things that happen.
That is absolutely correct. Yeah.
So Ben submits a set to your office.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain amount of time because you have hundreds of projects.
Correct.
You may have this one project, so everyone's hitting the desk. Now you have to review. It takes time. You find something, code's changed, or as we were saying earlier, there's a lot of objectivity in the code, but then there's a backdoor for subjectivity.
Yes.
So it's up to the discretion of the authority having jurisdiction.
Correct.
So
Depending on
what it
yes.
may be. So something comes to you, and you need to issue an RFI, request for information, or objection letter, and that letter then goes back to Ben's office, and then now Ben, you need to read it, respond.
Yeah. Respond in but first maybe research what the issue is, and possibly redesign. Oftentimes, and the other thing, at least in the towns that I'm typically working in, the other thing that the building department is often reviewing is zoning as well, right?
Yeah.
That is absolutely correct.
Not life safety necessarily, but very important for the township. So, and oftentimes the rejection letters, let's call them that, I guess, are
Sounds terrible.
We call them denial letters.
Not rejection
or, like, the health
letters.
department calls them notice of
RFI.
incomplete, right?
Right.
They're often zoning related,
Yeah.
and something got missed, or maybe and sometimes those are more interpretive than code, pure building code issues, I think. But anyway, and sometimes it causes redesign, rethinking, back to the drawing board, or
Or a hearing or presentation to be made to the
Yeah.
zoning board for a variance.
exactly
Right.
And that's one of the things we talk with our clients about. First, for the beginning, if there's any sort of difficult property to start with, that we want to try and present a solution to their program that is without variances, right? That meets the
Right.
codes,
Right.
as of right. But if it gets to this point where it's not meeting their program and they want to go above and beyond, or if something is really important to them and it causes a pyramid violation or they need setback relief, and they understand. First of all, we try to make them very clear to them that it's going to add time, it's going to add money, but if it's still something that's important to them and they choose to go on that path, then
you're in this. So there's this dance and dialogue, right? That occurs between the municipality and the owners and the owner's architect. And if there's an objection letter issued, it does not mean that there's incompetence on the architect's side, right? So maybe you want
absolutely correct.
Maybe talk to that piece.
So
because sometimes the homeowners.
So similar to what you're mentioning when it comes to zoning, if there is some type of setback, some type of variance that needs to be obtained, some municipalities may call it an objection letter. Some municipalities may call it a denial letter. Every municipality may call it something a little bit different. Something like that, then if the homeowners, as you mentioned, that they want to move forward with the project the way that it is. Now, of course, as you mentioned, there's more money that needs to be involved because now they have to file for another application. It's another time delay because, of course, you have to wait to actually get all the documentation necessary for filing to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And then, of course, being placed on a calendar and then trying to find the right person to actually make the presentation for you. Some homeowners say, I'll do it by myself. You can try doing it on your own. But if for whatever reason you're not well versed in what should be stated, instead of being there, going there, expressing your anger at how long this is taking, it might be a better solution for you to get the design professional that did the work for you to begin with to make that presentation for you. Get an attorney, get someone that's knowledgeable in making those presentations. Because the last thing that you want to do is have the zoning board reject what you're doing. And now you have to start all over again, making changes to the plans.
And in the grand scheme of the lion's share of a homeowner's budget is in the bricks and the sticks and the labor. The soft costs are fractional.
Correct.
This would all be considered soft cost.
Yes.
In my opinion, if it's going to break the budget to bring in the professionals to help you, the expediter, the attorney.
It saves you money in the long run.
It will, but if that's going to break your budget, then your budget is too stretched.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah. If that's breaking your budget, then something, the bricks and the sticks really does need to be contained, or finishes, or somewhere needs to be, because to try to, and I'm thinking of a client right now, and I was dialoguing with him today. He had an addition in Southampton, and he was a restaurateur. He built out maybe 30 restaurants, and he was, he skis in the winter, and he surfs in the summer, and he lives out in Hampton Bays. I don't want his life to how he got here, but it's nice when he's here, 30 restaurants is tough.
Yeah.
But he said, I'm bored, Frank. I'll just file it. And I said, Ron, money's not an issue here. He goes, I know, but I'm bored. So I said, but do something. Take up parasailing or something. Take up kite surfing, not expediting. That's not a hobby. Do something better with your time. And anyway, he chose to do it himself, and he calls me a few months later, and he says, I'm pulling my hair out, Frank. Why did I do this? And so it's the expediters really. You guys are never paid what you should be paid, and you make it look easy, and it's anything but. It's a challenge. It's a challenge.
It is a challenge.
Worth every dollar. So,
and in addition, once you get through zoning, if you actually obtain your variances, there are other municipalities that also have an architectural review board.
Yeah.
That, of course, is another meeting that needs to be held to simply discuss the aesthetics of the home.
Yep.
If for whatever reason the ARB says, no, we don't like that color fencing, or we don't like the hardy plank boards on the house, it goes right back to the design professional, who now has to once again amend the plans to reflect the orders of the ARB.
Yep.
Or the opinion sometimes.
Yeah, or the opinion. So patience, right?
Yes.
Right, patience. I
Patience.
think was it Jack Nicholson coined Goose Fraba, right? Patience, anger management, Goose Fraba. So so it's a process. It's a process. So we were talking also about this, when there's a code change, and you had a great idea. Maybe you want to talk about.
Yeah, well, you just mentioned that, and it got my wheels turning, even though they're a little rusty today. But as speaking with both my AIA hat my architect hat and what you mentioned in meeting here with Sergio, I think it would make a lot of sense rather than, us staying in our separate camps and meeting only when there's often just conflict, where there's a disagreement about something. What if we started from the beginning and maybe a code change is a good example. If the energy code's going to change, maybe, we can all sit down together and learn from the same, if it's a state official or something else who's making a presentation. I think that would make a ton of sense because, we get the opportunity to learn the new information together, have a dialogue about it together, ask questions together, and it becomes more of a working relationship rather than a confrontational relationship. Because oftentimes it is, unfortunately, set up as a confrontational relationship because of these issues we've been saying, and time and budget and unrealistic expectations from the homeowner. And why is it, it's out of our court, it's in their court now, they're the ones holding it up, but if there's more of a shared experience together, we're working towards the same thing. Then I think that stands to benefit everybody.
So if you're an architect and you're watching this, and this idea that Ben's kicking around here is something that you'd be interested in, message us offline. Reach out, and if there's enough interest, then I think it's a great idea, and probably is in the mission statement of what AIA is.
Yes, you're right. It probably is. But no, I'm actually going to work on that. We're always sort of searching for events and yes, lunch and dinner and learns, credit seminars. It's part of our responsibility to offer so many throughout the year. It's also, we try and put together interesting events and things where we're bringing the local chapter together and improving the camaraderie of the architects. But I think something where we reach outside our comfort zone a little bit and
facilitate that.
A better working environment, hopefully for everybody.
Sure. And it's probably a different invitation from an AIA official to a municipality than from a one-off. You would have a different hat, right? You have two hats that you'd put on, and it'd probably be a welcomed thing because
of course.
I would think on your end you would have.
We're all working towards the same goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's to help the resident accomplish the mission that they first started.
Right, and there could be a better unity here.
Better unity, better understanding. Absolutely.
And then maybe there's less objection letters and less frustration.
That is correct.
And so if you're watching this again, this is interest, then please let us know whether you're AIA Hudson Valley, AIA Long Island, AIA Peconic. If this reaches your feed, a meeting of the minds is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more.
So I think that we covered some good topics here today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you for having us.
Yeah. No, Sergio.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Ben.
Nice, Sergio.
Thank you.
Great to
Ben,
meet you.
thanks.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much,
it. So if you have any questions, comments, you want to leave something down there in the comment section below. You want to reach out to us offline. Sergio's and Ben's our contact will be there. Feel free to reach out. And if you're a subject matter expert, we'd love to have you on the show. Reach out to us, give us a ring. We'll call the office. We'll talk it through. We'll find a spot. But we appreciate the expertise and the professionalism. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we want to just say thank you for your time that you've afforded us here today, and we'll see you the next time when we're talking shop in the shop.